As fun as it is to root against Boston sports, as a basketball purist, I kind of think of myself as, I think ultimately this is good for the sport of basketball for the Celtics to get this done because they're playing team basketball. Now, are they OP? Are they a super team? It does feel like they are so loaded that everyone on the pecking order has been bumped down one notch and is overqualified now because they've been bumped down, right? You've got Drew Holiday and Derek White, super role players. Brown and Porzingis as this 2-3 AB, and then Tatum. I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, Jaylen Brown is the 1A, and we saw Kidd try to play those mind games, and Jason Tatum is catching a lot of flack for his lack of shooting in his finals performance. And if you've watched the channel long enough, I'm not a big fan of Tatum as far as his juice, right? He doesn't always pass the eye test, and his shot selection can be questionable. He disappears far too often on the court, right? But actually, I'm enjoying the way he's playing in this series. And I didn't see this evolution from Jason Tatum where he's become this big playmaking forward, like a budget LeBron out there. And you're seeing he's still figuring it out. But the mantra of this Celtics team, do less to accomplish more. Again, I think it's good for basketball overall when you take out the city of Boston, their fans, and all the winning they've already done, right? And to me, call me crazy. I know Drew Holiday is atop the ladder. We can talk about Tatum is the finals MVP for me right now because he has been the hub and everything is still running through him, and it's his willingness to do so. And that's the change I've seen with Tatum in the last season or two where, look, we've always kind of said, hey, why doesn't he get downhill, use that big frame, and finish better? And I've talked about it in the past. Well, he's got stiff hips. He plays very upright, so he's not able to generate a lot of force, and he's not a burst athlete, right? And so he's always kind of been this straight line driver that struggled to finish relative to his size and skill set. And what you're seeing him do in these finals is he's getting downhill all the way into the restricted, and he's not even looking at the rim. And what that tells me is he's driving to pass. He's driving to be a distributor. And that beat, that second that it takes to go from looking from shot to pass, a lot of the time is the difference between making a good pass or a bad pass. And because priority A for Tatum is to distribute, here comes the double. It's quick to the corner. It's quick to the wing. It's just unlocked this entire Celtics offense. Now, I get it. It's easier for him to become this player when you surround him with essentially 4 all-stars. I get it. But again, I'm looking at it from a basketball perspective. I respect what he's doing. He's always, I think, going to leave something to be desired as far as that alpha, right? But again, I didn't see him becoming a playmaking forward. Now, the passes, they're not necessarily accurate yet, right? I think he's still going to get better at it, but what's most important is they're on time. And he has the size to make all the passes. So I got no problem with the way Tatum has played in this finals. And I think if you take a step back without the agendas and narratives, you'd realize that he is the hub of what's going on for the Celtics offensively. And every year, once the champion is crowned, you're going to have these arguments of people trying to legitimize the run in the championship and people trying to discredit the run in the championship. It doesn't matter. You can look back at any champion. And the reality is there's always luck involved with every champion every year. That's how it goes. Whether it's your path and the brackets and the injuries and the way that lined up and how your roster was designed. Let's be honest. Boston, they stumble into Joe Mazzulla, who seems to be the perfect personality for this team because when you have this much talent, just stick to the script. You don't need any smoke and mirrors when you're the most talented team in the league. Just stick to the script. And Mazzulla not only does that, I mean, he looks like he keeps earlobes in jars, right? Like Mazzulla's a different type of dude, but they stumble into him because of the Udoka situation, right? They end up getting Porzingis 10 cents to the dollar because Washington, well, we all know is Washington, right? And then the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks chased the flashy sports car in Damian Lillard. And you can go back to my videos when that day that trade was made, I was like, don't let Boston or somebody else go get Drew out of Portland. And then it happened, right? Giannis has got to be somewhere sick watching these finals, watching Drew and Derek White dominate on the defensive end as essentially super role players, right? Everyone's been knocked down a level in the pecking order, which overqualifies them. And there you have it, right? In Dallas, let's talk about this because I know it's not over. But I think that honestly, throw out the numbers, the eye test. If you didn't have a scoreboard during any of these first game twos, did it ever feel like Dallas was going to win any of these games? And the role players have been such a big part of this Dallas turnaround, their defense, the rim protectors, the two-headed monster centers, right? I think when you look back through the playoffs in the Western Conference, the Clippers, the Thunder, the Wolves, these role players had an athletic advantage in most spots on the floor, whether it was Zubac, right? OKC, look, Chet, I'm not calling him a non-athlete, right? But he's got some strength to gain, right? They have Jalen, the other Jalen Williams, right? They didn't have these big athletic forwards. OKC did, right? And then the Wolves constantly had Towns and Gobert out there, right? And so Gafford, Lively, Washington, these guys had an athletic advantage, a physical advantage in quickness and verticality for most of these playoffs. And now you show up in Boston and they just can't find it anywhere, right? And I think that's part of their struggles. And then you go to Kyrie, where I know he's trying to downplay the psychological warfare, but if you were to circle a team and say, okay, they're going to slow down Kyrie in a playoff series, it would be this Boston Celtics team. Not just because of the personnel. You've got White, you've got Holiday, you've got all these guys that can switch onto them, big, long defenders, and then 1 through 5, they all protect the rim. That's been another thing. Have you noticed? When you get to the rim, Dallas seems to be like, okay, we're going to go finish strong, right? The problem is all of these guys protect the rim. And so then kids like, hey, make the extra pass. But now you've got these maybe shooters shooting above the break, and it's compounded the issue. But I think that not only is it just a physical personnel thing for Kyrie, I think that there's a familiarity. And I'll tell you when I knew this series was over. I had it in the breakdown yesterday. You can check it out on Patreon. Listen, you watch sports, you watch football, you watch basketball long enough, you get these snapshots. There'll be a play where you go, oh, and you have a moment of clarity, and you realize, oh, this is what's going to unfold. It's kind of like I don't want to call it a psychic moment, but you have like a premonition, right? And it's usually like a play that stands out and you're like, oh, this thing's over. This team's going to win this, right? And that moment was Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, ISO on that left wing, and Jaylen Brown put him in jail, right? And I know you say it's one play, right? It's one play. I get it. So, he locked him up, but it was just like, oh, your magician has been shut down, Dallas. Luka, we killed your Robin. You no longer have your Robin. We've taken him out of the game, and now you're relying on young role players. And Luka, look, the injuries, the boy who cried wolf, the chest. I knew he was rope-a-doping with that chest thing because he came out, he looked all right. And it is remarkable that he's still putting up these numbers offensively when you look at the gauntlet of defenders that he's doing it against. But at the end of the day, right now, can you say Luka is a two-way player? You can't, right? He is the best one-way player in the game today, and one we've seen in a long way. But defensively, I don't know if you want to blame the knee. I can't sit here and blame the injuries for his defense because so much of it is effort. You saw the stat, 35 blow-bys, these straight line drives. I can't tell you how many times Boston offensively is getting to the restricted area. And when that happens to your defense and it's just getting swung around, it feels like inevitably, I don't care how well you're playing offensively, you're going to lose when the other team is getting to the heart of the paint every time. And Luka is a big part of that. And so maybe this is the part in Luka's story where this summer he realizes, okay, I truly have to get in shape. And we see Luka truly come back in shape for next season. Maybe he just writes it off and says, hey, if I'm healthy, if I don't have the bad knee I don't know. I can't call it. But we've seen this before where a young superstar hits a wall deep in the playoffs or in the finals And it's that moment for them to kind of, I don't want to say rededicate, but understand there's another level for them to take it to in order to climb the mountaintop. And Luka, we all know physically, he's leaving something on the table as far as his conditioning. And you get in better shape, you're a little bit lighter, you're probably going to be healthier longer in the season and overall, right? Now, how do y'all feel? Do you guys think it's over? I've been a little irritated that it's just not as competitive as I would have hoped for. Now, if you wanted to say, okay, well, Boston, we've seen in their DNA the lack of killer instinct. We've seen them sell on games they shouldn't have. Dallas is going to get back home to Dallas. The role players will play better. They'll shoot better. We're due a Kyrie game, right? I think we're all expecting at some point here in these next two games, Kyrie's going to go crazy one way or another. I'm not sure how he does it. I think it might have to be assists. I think Kyrie has to look to get back to being the distributor we saw him in that OKC series. But underdog fantasy, I do have some picks for this game 3. We're going to keep it rolling through the summer. WNBA playoffs is going to be fun. All sorts of drama, and I'm kind of learning the numbers and the stats in that league. You got the Olympics coming up, right? So we're going to keep it rolling through the summer. But for this game 3, I am on the hunt for a Tim Hardaway Jr. number. It's not there yet, but if you see one, I like that. I think it's time to go to Hardaway Jr., a little more dynamic of an offensive player, a guy that can not only create shots on his own, but I think create some shots for others and a little more experience. But as of right now, I think I like Kyrie's higher than 5 assists, again, because the way they're defending him, he's got to look to distribute. And since I like that, I like the role players at home for Dallas. That's Gafford, that's Jones Jr. They're both at 8.5 points. I like that to go higher. As far as Boston goes, listen, I don't trust the Porzingis calf. I don't trust that. I know they're going to downplay it, and I'm sure they're going to roll him out and see how it looks. But I like his lower than, I think it's at 13.5 points right now, because I just don't think he's going to play that much, at least not in this game 3 in Dallas. So those are my underdog picks for now. Link is in the description. Play along all summer. We're going to keep it rolling. Last but not least, if y'all still watching the video, I want y'all to drop me some draft names in the comments so I can start to take a look as we head into this draft. We've got a 2nd round pick, so I'm not doing a ton of scouting, but that doesn't mean that we don't buy into the 1st round. Warrior fans, Dub Nation, I'm talking to y'all because Joe Lacob has had a tendency to do so, right? He likes to get involved in the draft, and so I'm not really going to scout until afterwards. I think we're going to have quite a few new players that I'm going to scout throughout the summer and give you video breakdowns on that. But leave me a couple names of guys that intrigue you, late 1st round, 2nd round picks that could be possibly added to the roster. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.